Romans. It says 1 and 2. Because how many know that we're living in a world now that is so confused? And I'm not talking about the world. I'm talking about the church. Church people are so confused now, and they're conforming to the world, to the system. And I found myself, can I just be honest today? I found myself trying to be, I was getting a little caught up myself. Because I thought that when I came into church, and I tried that mess long time ago. When I first got saved, I thought if I would be like this one, or I'd be like that one, or if I, and God he had to chastise me on that. He said, you are so busy trying to be like somebody else. He said, I can't even help you. And this is what's happening in the church of the living God today. We are conforming to the world. We are conforming to the system. We are getting caught up. And it's not benefiting us. That's why when you come into church now, you got people sitting there, and some of them, their mindset is so far from being holy. It's so far from doing what God said do, until we don't know what to do. But I hear Paul here, Paul, he was a man in the 7th chapter of Romans. Paul had some issues and some problems. Anybody got any issues and any problems up in here? You would be honest with yourself. You know that you need a change in your life. And I decided that, look, if I was going to go to hell, I'm going to go first class. I'm going to do everything that I'm big enough to do if I wanted to go to hell. But I made a decision that I want to go to heaven. And since I made that decision, I made it with a sound mind. Then I knew something else had to take place. And so Paul tells us in the 12th chapter of Romans, the 1st and 2nd verse, he said, I beseech you, therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, that ye present your bodies a living sacrifice, holy, acceptable unto God, which is your reasonable service. And be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind, that ye may prove that what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God. And when I was thinking of this, God gave me the thought, trap between the transformation. Trapped between the transformation. I said, God, and then I'm not going to talk about you. I'm going to talk a little bit about myself. Because sometimes, in the course of the day, when you're walking with God, and when you first get saved, everything seems like it's so joyful, and everything is so peaceful. It looks like everybody is just praising the Lord, and they're with you. And I remember the years ago that, when the saints, the mature saints, the aged women, it didn't matter whether you needed something or not. They will see that you had it. They will see that you got it. Excuse me for a few minutes, but it didn't matter what it was. If you didn't have a slip, the mothers of the church would buy you one. They wouldn't go off and talk about, she didn't have this on, or she didn't have that on, and her stockings was ruined, and her hair didn't look right, and all of that. They came to you, and they knew how to approach you. They would use that word, baby. Baby, you need to, do you need a slip? And then they didn't ask you. They would get it. They were going by for you. But, the church, I wonder what in the world is happening to the church today. I got kind of, caught up there. And I started to conform, and, if they look mad, I look mad. Come on. If they didn't want to hug, I didn't hug. If they didn't say praise the Lord, I didn't say praise the Lord. I said, Lord, what in the world is going on? God said, what kind of mess is this? See, the world is not claiming to know Jesus. If they walk past you and don't speak, it's okay. You said they ain't saved. But what about the church of the living God? Those that's supposed to be rooted and grounded and built up in God. Where is the church at today? If your child got in trouble, I was to pray for your child. I wasn't to talk about your child. Woo, what happened to the church of the living God? Paul said, and be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed. And I was sharing this morning about that old ugly caterpillar, but I didn't know that it was a butterfly in there. Nobody told me that the caterpillar was turning a butterfly. So I didn't know that. So when I saw a caterpillar, I squashed it. Anybody ever squashed a caterpillar? When you was little, you saw them crawling around. They wasn't pretty, was they? So I squashed it. I didn't know I was squashing a butterfly. And so the same way with the saints of God, we got God's purpose in there. See, we look on the out, we know how to dress it up. We know how to look holy. We know what to do. But what's going on the inside? And Paul in the 7th chapter of Romans, see, Paul was a theologian, wasn't he? And I mean, he knew the law too. He, as my daddy would say, he knew it up one side and down the other one. And tell me, he knew if you spoke Greek, he could speak Greek. If you spoke Spanish, he could speak Spanish. Tell me, there's no difference in the languages now. Spanish has always been Spanish. French has always been French. People act like it's new stuff out here now. Ain't nothing new. Solomon told us, ain't nothing new under the sun. The same gin that they drink back then, it's the same old gin. Same J. Berman that was back there. They said, what you know about that? Hush, I've been in sin before. A sinner does what a sinner do. The church is looking at the sinner man trying to make him live holy when we in the church can't live holy. It's time for a change. But somebody has gotten trapped between the transformation. God started to transforming you when you got saved. And you're so sweet. But what happened? While you was being transformed. You ever seen, I have to go to Wonder Woman. I don't know about all this stuff, new stuff. But Wonder Woman, while she was turning around, something was taking place, wasn't it? She was being transformed. She went from where she was to Wonder Woman. And when she turned back around, honey, she had on her outfit. She was going to rescue somebody. We need some wonder. We need some Supermans too. We do. We need a Clark Kent. We need somebody to go in the phone booth. Turn around. When you come out, you're going to go to rescue somebody. Saints, it's high time that the church wake up. Because we having a form of godliness. Sick folk are dying. When I preach to you, I'm preaching to myself. How many people say, so-and-so in the hospital, how they doing? How many people go visit? Telephone. Lord help us. So it says, Paul was begging the Romans to change. We can't present anything to God. Do you know most of our worship is not really worship? God is not going to get me. I promise Christ temple that, Jeremiah had to go all by himself and cry sometimes. I might have to cry sometimes. I know I will. Because if you preach really the unadulterated gospel, you ain't going to have many friends no how. If you really truly live holy, you may not have any friends. I want somebody to tell me the truth.